Recently, HBO released a short teaser for True Detective Season 4, and while we don't have a concrete release date, we do know that the release will be coming in 2023 at some point. This is exciting news, and in this video, me and my boy Damon are going to break down the 2-minute teaser and discuss our thoughts about the upcoming season. To start, let's summarize the plot for the season. The show is set in the fictional town of Ennis, Alaska, which is based on an actual area of Alaska called the North Slope Borough. Basically, it's really fucking cold, and it'll be the dead of winter when the show takes place. 8 men working at the nearby Tsalal Arctic Research Station have vanished without a trace, and it's up to detectives Liz Danvers, played by the legendary Jodie Foster, and Evangeline Navarro, played by Kali Reis, who by the way has some serious fucking hands, to solve the case. That's all the description the HBO website gives us. This issue is further complicated by the fact that the two detectives don't get along.
You think I want to work with you? Take a look in the mirror. No one can stand you.
And for what it's worth, it seems that most of the small town of Ennis doesn't really like Jodie Foster's character. Anyways, the theory is that the 8 men from the research center went out to go watch the last sunset before the long winter and abruptly vanished.
It was the last sunset before the long night. Theory is they went out to watch it.
What makes their disappearance even more eerie is the fact that these men apparently ran out onto the bare ice with no shoes. What was so scary that these men were willing to risk losing their feet to go away? Alright, so we don't have a ton of info so far, just a short 2-minute teaser. But over here, Damon and I love to overanalyze everything, so we're going to try and have a discussion on everything we can for Season 4. Let's start off with the 2 main leads, Jodie Foster and Kali Reis. What are your thoughts on casting these two?
The casting decision is actually pretty cool for this season. Instead of going with their double or triple star model that they've used in seasons past, Kali Reis represents kind of an unknown. She's had a promising young acting career, but she's more known earlier in her career as a champion boxer, right? From good old Providence, Rhode Island, right down the highway. She's kind of on the come up, and she came to prominence through an independent film called Catch the Fair One. She's of indigenous descent, though her tribe's not native to Alaska, and nearly 20% of Alaska's population is actually indigenous. So that's kind of a cool role of representation in the upcoming season. I think that she actually has a role in the sequel to Wind River, which is kind of ironic because both of these works have similar settings in a way. I've seen some of her stuff. She's pretty talented, so I've got some high hopes here. Jodie Foster, as we all know, legendary actor for everything from Taxi Driver to Silence of the Lambs, known for having extreme chops when playing in a thriller role or as a detective. She knows and does the genre very well, and that's not very dissimilar to other stars from the True Detective series like McConaughey, Harrelson, Dorff, Mahershala. A lot of people, including Colin Farrell, have had a lot of promising action roles before they get cast. This is no different. We know her from Flight Plan, Panic Room, and The Brave One, but here's to hoping that we're going to know her best from Season 4. True Detective's always fueled by this crazy dynamic between the two central detectives.
Just want you to stop saying odd shit, like you smell a psychosphere or you're in someone's faded memory of a town. Just stop.
Given how long it's taken for me to reconcile my nature, I can't figure I'd forgo it on your account, Marty.
Part of the reason why Season 2 was such a huge mess is because there was limited organization there.
These contracts, signatures all over them.
There were too many characters to focus on. Here it seems like we've gone back to the basics, like Season 1 and Season 3 did with much success. It's going to be really hard to ignore the faith versus science angle we kind of already see between these two. I'm hoping that we can maybe recapture some of the elusive Season 1 magic that Cole and Hart shared with that kind of dynamic.
It'd be a fucking freak show of murder and debauchery, and you know it.
If the only thing keeping a person decent is the expectation of divine reward, then brother, that person is a piece of shit.
But ultimately, the show is going to kind of hinge on the ability of these two to generate chemistry and rapport. I've got some high hopes.
Yeah, great points all around on the two actors. What else caught your eye from the trailer, Damon?
A few things really stood out to me. I really liked the visuals that we saw early on in the trailer. Kind of reminded me of some shots from The Thing, which is a classic horror film by John Carpenter that you all should totally watch when you get a chance if you haven't already. And if you have, go watch it again. Also, it kind of reminded me of some of the night shot scenes in Yellow Jackets, which is kind of a thriller drama set in Canada. Had a lot of buzz recently, but it's got that instant unease packed within the setting that I think True Detective fancies as its calling card. One thing that I could be totally wrong about, but just a shot in the dark, the spiral that appears on Dora Lang in Season 1 Looks a hell of a lot like the spiral that's shown on, it's a factory wall, maybe a piece of wood or like a sheet of metal that Jodie Foster shines a flashlight on in the trailer. Maybe we've got some sort of interconnectivity with a conspiracy aspect, which would be kind of sick.
Yeah, interesting points that you just made about the trailer. I just want to talk about themes real quick. True Detective has always flirted with the theme of human darkness, and a lot of the ways they've portrayed this theme involves depicting child sex abuse, kidnapping, satanic rituals, bad men being important in this world, etc. The one thing we haven't really seen too much in this series is anything involving the supernatural. Like, are we going to get something supernatural, or is it going to be more the rational scientific explanations of everything that is happening? Now, I want to talk about something else, Damon. We do get this quick cut from the trailer, teaser, whatever you want to call it, where there's two men in front of Jodie Foster and she's explaining things.
Some people come to Alaska to escape, get away from something.
This is very reminiscent of Cole and Hart in season 1 of True Detective, when the other two detectives are interviewing them to try to get their story. So are these reporters? Are they cops? Like, what were your thoughts on that?
I would guess that this is a small case that blows up, which might have something to do with the reaction to Danvers saying she wants to evaluate it as a murder scene.
It was a weather event.
Yeah, I'm treating this like a murder case.
Right? When Jodie Foster's on the case and making a big deal about stuff, I'm pretty sure the community is going to take notice. There's some conspiracy potential for sure, with the missing men being from a research facility. All of a sudden they go missing. Only their shoes are left behind. Sounds like a rough journey, as they say in a pretty iconic quote from this scene.
How scared do you have to be to run out in the ice without any shoes?
But yeah, there's plenty more themes to explore as well.
Damon, I love that you touched on the fact that this could be a sort of small case that blows up type of thing, which is why the two men are talking to her. Previous seasons of True Detective explored the themes of small town politics. Now we get to venture to another small town in Ennis, Alaska, except this time the two cops working the case are women. I'm expecting discrimination to be a theme that is explored, but what are some of your thoughts on that?
Those are really interesting points, because I'm looking forward to the idea of exploring indigenous struggles within the Alaskan society in general. Lack of trust in women, like you said, could become sort of like an old sexist way of thought that might exist out in the backwoods of Alaska that becomes kind of prevalent here. Wouldn't be surprised to see him touch on vices. I know the alcoholism stats in areas of Alaska are pretty high in those communities, especially if you're maybe if they're near a defunct oil well or some kind of factory that's fallen through, and you have that sort of working class aspect to it as a backdrop, will be really interesting. I wouldn't also be surprised if we saw some spirituality explored heavily here. I know we have the shot of the cross in the trailer, but even if it's something to do with, do you believe in an afterlife? Are they feeling that they're in some sort of hell? The spirituality of indigenous tribes in the area, all that stuff, give me more of that. I want to see a broader horizon of that, which I think will be a really nice backdrop.
Yeah, agree with you there. Looking forward to seeing some of those themes explored as well. And one thing True Detective has always been good for is providing stunning visuals. So even though season 4 is set in Alaska, the filming was actually done in Iceland. So personally, I'm expecting some gorgeous winter shots. Damon, I want to know, what do you think about the potential for this? And how do you think it compares to the previous 3 seasons, where these shows in the setting has always been around these small towns, but they've always done a great job of really making you feel like you're there?
I'm a little worried, and I'm being a hater here, but that they might kind of mess up the brightness ratio like they did in House of Dragon. HBO, please, please, please do not heavily apply darkness. Your whole setting is darkness. You don't need to ramp that up at all, unless you want to. I know nothing about cinematography, so take my hating with a grain of salt. After that, I'm totally psyched about the idea of this being the setting in terms of the visuals. I mean, the show's always been heavily tied to the pathos of what the surrounding community has to offer, like you were saying. Season 1, we have the bayou. It's hard to keep track of things. Records aren't kept too well. There's a southern twist. There's that swampy, grim backdrop, and a lot of those bleak colors that we've associated with, Fall in the South, that sort of vibe. Season 2, you got your Kali chaos, your conspiracy theories, and the abundance of non-prescription pharmaceuticals involved. Season 3, you've got your southern woods, middle America. There's that sense of desolation, especially with the characters of Hayes and Roland. You're left back in time a bit. That area catches up to the country a little bit, not on the same page as everybody else. Not to shit on middle America at all, but that's just how it goes. And there are some simple communities that aren't so simple. This setting has some huge potential, right? There's the idea of thriving off of thrilling elements, but there's also that slow psychological deterioration of sinking back into the long night.
It was the last sunset before the long night.
This could be one of the most terrifying seasons so far because of the foreboding vibe, right? The night country takes us one by one.
The night country. It takes us one by one.
The lighting potential, the contrast between the wintry backdrop and the pitch black night. Darkness basically hints at a lack of hope or concrete knowledge, some kind of lack of clarity, chaos. These could also tie back in. Overall, man, I'm psyched. I've been starving for this ever since season 3 ended, and I am ready for another dynamic duo to take hold here.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the upcoming season of True Detective. Somehow we managed to squeeze out 10 minutes worth of content off of a 2-minute trailer. We'll be doing episode recaps once the season drops. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all later. I need a fucking drink.